Hello guys, this is Saruto Uchiha Storm here and welcome to my channel. Today I am doing what if Naruto was the son of two dragons. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Chapter 4, The Son of Emperors. Dude. What? Naruto asked when he felt a hand slapping his back. He raised an eyebrow when he saw Issei looking like he was a combination of about to explode, and constipated. The boy looked like he wanted to both hail him as a hero and curse him as if he were an evil overlord. It was actually a really funny thing to see. Ow. Issei held the palm of his hand, pained from slapping Naruto's back. He looked at Naruto, who was completely unfazed by the slap. He had put everything that he could into that back slap, and Naruto was still calmly eating his lunch. Dude, you have to teach me how you did what you did. You haven't even been here a full day, and you've already scored a date with the hottest girl in the school. How? Issei dropped down to his knees and begged for the knowledge. Naruto raised an eyebrow. I asked. It's not that big of a deal, trust me, I've done way more impressive things than get a date with a pretty girl. Naruto mentioned with a roll of his eyes. I would like to hear some of those things. Oh, hey Rias, and. Naruto tilted his head when he looked at the girl that was standing next to Rias. Both Rias and this new girl both had lunch trays, showing that they had bought their lunches. Oh pie. Akeno Himejima, nice to meet you Uzumaki-kun. Akeno, a girl that was actually a good deal shorter than Rias, spoke politely. She had long black hair, but strangely violet eyes. Her body measurements seemed to almost be on par with Rias in most areas, the only area truly surpassing Rias being her bust line. She was a size larger than Rias' own impressive blossom. I hear you asked Bucko out on a date. I'm curious what you think is more impressive than that. Akeno introduced herself and her intentions. Naruto waved at her. Naruto smacked Issei on the back of the head. Hey! Issei shouted in pain when he glared at Naruto. You were staring, take a seat. Naruto gestured to the seats across from himself, and even Issei sat down next to him. He smiled sheepishly when he realized he had been caught staring at Akeno and Rias' breasts once more. I don't mean to brag, but I've got a pretty mean list of accomplishments. Naruto raised his nose up in the air with a grin on his face. Akeno giggled at his bravado. So confident. You're about to brag, I take it? Rias questioned him, and Naruto took a yo-yo out of his pocket and placed it on the table between their lunches. A yo-yo? At the school I went to before this one, I threw the entire school into chaos. I challenged the strongest, most talented fighters in their fields of expertise and beat all of them. Naruto explained, while Issei just looked at the yo-yo. Okay, but the yo-yo? You seem like the athletic type. Rias agreed, and Naruto nodded. I defeated the school's strongest wrestler in wrestling, defeated the school's best swordsman in swordsmanship, beat the entire basketball club by myself, defeated Rock Lee and his entire soccer team, defeated the martial arts club by myself, and took down the sumo club in sumo, Naruto explained with a grin on his face. He raised his arm up and rolled up his sleeve, flexing his muscle and showing off his body a little. Shit. Naruto cursed when he realized that he had just attracted the attention of all of the girls by showing off his body. Anyway, there were only two people at the Konoha Academy that could give me a challenge. Neji Hyuga, and my rival. Naruto explained further. Akeno covered her mouth. Wow, Neji Hyuga is considered one of Japan's #1 martial arts experts. Also, Rock Lee is one of Japan's best soccer players. Akeno was a little surprised when she heard those names on the list. Rias tilted her head and bit her lip in thought as she tried to recall where she had heard of that name. The name of his previous school. It was a school that was located in Kuo, but she had never actually been to the school before. You must be very talented, Akeno commented. You'll see soon enough. Dude, creepy, Issei whispered to Naruto when he saw that savage smile that Naruto showed off. What? I wasn't being creepy? Naruto coughed into his hand and regained his composure for a moment before he grinned to himself. And the yo-yo? Rias asked as she picked it up and looked at it. It was an old, worn-out yo-yo, but it was just that. It was a normal yo-yo in every way. Naruto took it from her and placed it back into his pocket. Actually, why did you fight so many people before coming here? Rias asked him for a little more detail. She believed him, he didn't seem like he was lying, and the powerful aura that he gave off didn't seem like it was just for show either. If anything, he was an extremely talented fighter just by looking at his body alone. You could see the years of training that he must have gone through to attain his body. Oh, I once beat an entire gang using nothing but yo-yos. It was actually really easy, didn't even break a sweat. Naruto waved that off as if it were the least important thing that he had done. He kept it as a reminder of how he defeated an entire gang of thugs by himself. How about you, Issei, did you ever get into any good fights? Naruto asked Issei. The boy had a dragon aura. He had to have at least been in a fight before now, even if it would have been a rather weak opponent. I'm not exactly built for fighting, Issei pointed out. Naruto sighed. I can't help but feel sorry for. Ooh. Naruto just sighed, figuring that the boosted gear was in a dormant state at the moment. Issei's dragon aura was extremely weak, so he must have barely ever if at all, used his sacred gear. He felt pity for Diedrich. The dragon must be crying tears of shame for who its current user was. Rias raised an eyebrow and glanced at Issei. What? He must have a sacred gear, more than likely one that increases his physical abilities, a twice critical? He has a dragon aura. Rias thought as she looked at Naruto with calculative eyes as Naruto stole some of Issei's meal without the boy noticing. Issei noticed his tutus were glaring at him, and Naruto, with jealousy and anger. He looked towards them and sent them a shrug, sadly, that only got them more annoyed. They picked up an apple and orange from their lunches and took aim toward Naruto. While Naruto had just been talking about all of the fights he had been in, the only people close enough to make out his words had been those sitting at the table. Naruto caught the apple just as Rias and Akeno noticed it had been thrown. Naruto threw the apple and hit the orange in the air before he jumped up out of his seat. He kicked the apple and set it flying before he spun in the air and kicked the orange. His kicks were fast enough that it was barely even a moment before both the apple and the orange were sent right back at the boy who had thrown them. The fruits nailed them both in the faces with enough force to knock them out of their seats with bleeding noses. That was so freaking cool. Issei was used to being betrayed by his friends whenever one of them would get caught peeping on girls. Never before had he actually seen them get their just desserts for being traitors. They got beat for being perverts, but never for being traitors like that. He had to ask Naruto where he learned that. Really impressive. Akeno gave a small clap of her hands. Human or not, what Naruto just did showed an impressive amount of spatial awareness and both a great amount of skill combined with sharp reflexes. Naruto smiled and rubbed the back of his head. If your dating skills match your martial arts, then I'm looking forward to this evening. Rias decided that she would try and figure out if Naruto had a sacred gear later. Of course, she stood up, since now that Naruto had just sent 2 fruit flying across the lunchroom, all eyes were on their table. For once, people were staring in her direction and it wasn't focused on lust towards her. Even Issei felt weird with people looking in his direction and that feeling they showed on their faces not being disgusted. Maybe not that good, anyway, I'm looking forward to the date. After I get done conquering all of the clubs at this school, I'm going to need a break. Come on Issei, I need somebody to witness my domination. Naruto stood up and grabbed Issei by the shoulder. He wasn't giving the boy a choice in the matter. Wait, why me? Because you might learn something. See you later Rias, sorry another girl, I already forgot your name. I promise I'll remember it next time. Naruto apologized to Akeno as he started to drag Issei off. Bucko. If he's going to challenge all of the clubs, doesn't that mean that he's going to challenge our club? Akeno asked Rias with a concerned look on her face as if they didn't already have problems to worry about. It wouldn't be good for a human to be snooping into their club activities, even once as skilled as Naruto seemed to be. Wait, Naruto Uzumaki, where have I heard that last name before? Akeno asked herself out loud when she realized that she had heard that last name. It's the clan name that produced the previous Red Dragon Emperor, the Queen of Terror, the strongest existence, Kushina Uzumaki. It's likely just a coincidence since she died after defeating the White Dragon Emperor in a final showdown. The Uzumaki family were all wiped out after she died. Rias knew the story of the previous Red Dragon Emperor. Nobody didn't know of her. She claimed the top spot as the strongest of the strong. Her strength could only be challenged by her rival Minato Namikaze, and she killed him in their final battle, a battle so grande that it wiped out a chain of islands from existence. Kushina was feared to the point that after her death, the Uzumaki family was wiped out to prevent anyone like her from being born. Heck, she was battle-obsessed, so there was no man strong enough would be able to make her fall in love. The only man that Rias could think of capable of such a thing would be the White Dragon Emperor, and the likelihood of that happening was almost zero. What were the odds that he was her son? Chapter 5 How Not to Hold Back, a Naruto Feel free to challenge me if you want your stuff back. Naruto waved off the tennis club as he left the club sweating and panting, on their knees from the sheer exhaustion of trying their hardest to keep up with him. Naruto was grinning as he placed the items he took from the defeated club in his bag of victory trophies. Every club he went to he challenged them, and he made sure to place a pretty large bet on the line. So far, all of the clubs he had challenged had been defeated by him and had their side of the bet collected. Of course, if they ever wanted their stuff back, they just needed to challenge him and wager something else, and then defeat him. Okay, so you've beaten the swim club, the baseball club, the basketball club, the soccer club, the track club, and now you've taken down the tennis club. Now all you need to do is take down the girls' kendo club and you'll have taken down all of the sports clubs we have. Issei watched as Naruto looked at his collected trophies. He was surprised that Naruto had been able to take down all of the clubs without even breaking a sweat, and they're perhaps the scariest club. Issei shivered when he remembered some rather unpleasant beatings that he had been given. You get caught peeping 6 times, and suddenly you get labeled a pervert that deserves to be beaten on sight. Thinking about that, Issei could understand why he was labeled a pervert. I'm going to take down all of the clubs, and after that, I'm taking down the student council. Naruto walked towards the next building. He could see it was a more traditional Japanese building, so it wasn't hard to guess that it was the girls' kendo club. He could hear the sounds of wood hitting against the wood. Naruto had a savage grin on his face, thinking of what he would be taking from the occult research club. Occult research had to be a club that had some nice stuff that he could get as a trophy, and of course, he was going to take control of the student council once he defeated the president of the group. You're crazy. No, I'm ambitious, there is a difference. Naruto corrected Issei as he opened the sliding door to the training room. He could see 2 girls decked out in gear trying to hit each other with their wooden swords. They didn't stop when he entered the room, but the rest of the club looked at him with surprise when they noticed him enter. Thwack asterisk, the practice match was finished with the taller of the 2 girls hitting the other on her armored head. Don't beat me. I'm not peeking right now. Issei shouted when the girls saw him and prepared to raise their swords against him. Naruto raised his arm up in front of Issei and grinned. And if you do, don't aim for the face and balls. Issei whimpered when he continued to see those glares. Naruto glanced at him with a raised eyebrow. I'm here to challenge your club to a contest of your choice. I want to fight your strongest club member or all of you. Naruto declared the winner of the duel between the girls and started to walk toward him. She unveiled herself as she removed her helmet, her long brown hair cascading down her back. You're the new student, right? Naruto Uzumaki. I've heard about you going around and challenging the other clubs. I'm Murayama, the club captain. Murayama introduced herself. She extended her hand to Naruto in a show of respect. Unlike Issei, Naruto hadn't done anything to prove himself a pervert. She was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt based on the fact he had yet to do anything truly bad. Of course, according to the rumors that were already flying around, he was beating one club after another without mercy. Naruto shook her hand. You want to take my challenge? Since it seems like none of you like Issei, if you win I'll give Issei to you as a practice dummy. Naruto let go of her hand and crossed his arms, gesturing towards Issei with a twitch of his head. Hey? Murayama considered it for a moment as she glared at Issei with a hateful passion. Issei flinched back in fear from her gaze, and he looked away, only to jump when he saw many of the other girls smiling just as hatefully. That's a really tempting offer, that's too tempting to pass up. Fine, I'll take your bet. What do you want from me if I lose? Murayama asked as she imagined all of the nasty things that she could do to Issei with her shinai. Like hitting him between the legs until his dick became completely useless. Oh, how she would enjoy just taking out all of her frustrations out on Issei. Naruto, take their underwear. Issei shouted at Naruto with a bleeding nose. Pervert. Why? They're just panties. Well, this is the girls' kendo club. Taking their shinai would make it impossible for them to practice. Sure, if I lose I'll be taking all of your panties. Naruto shrugged, not really caring. He walked towards the middle of the room and picked up the defeated girl's shinai. He removed her helmet and showed a rather attractive short-haired girl underneath. He placed the helmet over his head and raised the shinai up. Murayama raised an eyebrow and raised her shinai up, putting her helmet back on when she noticed that he didn't bother putting on anything but the helmet. Of course, her cheeks were burning red. Pervert. Murayama had a small smile on her face. That was not hate-filled. Oh come on, why does he get a free pass for perverted stuff, and I get my ass beat? Issei screamed at the annoyance of it all. The defeated girl stood up and got out of the way. You agree with me, right Katace? Issei asked as he looked at the girl. He knew the names of all of the girls that kicked his ass. You were the one who suggested the panties, also he isn't being a pervert about it, and he's really good looking, unlike you average San. Katace spoke up with a glare at Issei for using her name so impolitely, as if they were friends. She looked toward Naruto's body, and her cheeks turned red when he took his shirt off. The first to 3 wins, and as a handicap, I'll give you 2 free hits, Naruto spoke as he tossed his shirt to the side and placed his finger right at the center of his chest. Murayama had stopped. Dear God, those abs. I bet he could make a girl come just by letting her grind herself on those abs. Murayama's face was on fire underneath her helmet as she looked over his body. She looked at that smirk, she could see his smirk through the slits in the helmet, and just that confidence he was displaying was hotter than even his body. You act like you're going to win, Murayama spoke as she grabbed her shinai with both hands. Thwack, she smacked it into his ribs, and her eyes widened a little when her attack didn't even so much as make him flinch. She saw the small ripple as his muscles automatically tensed up at being attacked. I like giving all my opponents a chance, that way nobody can complain when I beat them, Naruto stated as she attacked the other side of his ribs. The loud thwack caused several girls to wince in pain, understanding just how much that could hurt. Naruto then raised the shinai he was using up. Now, just say when we start, Naruto told Murayama as he looked at her, not bothering to put his shirt back on. Might as well give her some eye candy so that she would take her to defeat better. Now, Murayama shouted as she ran at Naruto, taking a very good, firm stance as she prepared a fierce stab at his center of gravity. Thwack! Murayama didn't know what happened next. The next thing she knew was the fact that the side of her head hurt, and she was laying on the ground. She saw that Naruto had taken a single step to the right, her shinai having missed him. She also saw that he had kept the shinai extended, showing that he had whacked her hard enough to knock her over, and with enough speed so that she couldn't react. Are you okay? Naruto asked as Murayama stood back up, recovering from her stunned state. She returned to a battle stance. Okay, so she wasn't dealing with a cocky fool, she was dealing with a talented martial artist who had mastered the sword. Yeah. Murayama was no longer focused on his body, the throbbing feeling in the side of her head reminding her that now was not the time to be distracted. She was going to remember the bruise he gave her. She looked for any weaknesses in his stance, even though he was standing regularly with only one hand on the sword, she couldn't tell if he had actually dropped his guard. She doubted it. Then it's my turn, Naruto told her. He launched his attack, taking a single large step towards her. She was able to see him raise the shinai above his head. She raised her own up to block, only for Naruto to spin as he swung downward. Instead of a downward slash, he made a sweeping slash. He slid underneath her guard completely, and she had the wind knocked out of her when she was knocked off of her feet by the second blow. Dude, hold back a little, she's a girl. Issei felt sorry for the girl that he was usually beaten by as she hit the ground, rolling onto her hands and feet, trying to get her breath back. I am holding back though, anyway, I don't care if she's a woman. All those who want to practice combat need to be willing to get a little hurt. I'm taking her as seriously as I would take any guy opponent. If I don't take her seriously, then I'm disrespecting her as a warrior. Naruto lectured Issei as he waited for Murayama to get her breath back, and stand back up. He didn't take his eyes off of her, knowing that he was talking to Issei and could give her the chance to launch a surprise attack. He wasn't going to hold back his skill, but he wasn't going to try and seriously injure her either. She was going to be pretty bruised, but nothing that a week or two wouldn't heal. Murayama coughed as she stood back up. I wouldn't mind being disrespected right now. Those attacks really hurt. Murayama couldn't help herself but say. Also, look, something distracting. Murayama knew what she was doing was playing dirty, but she didn't want to give up her panties and force the rest of the club to give up their panties, because she was defeated. Sometimes you needed to play dirty. Something distracting? Naruto looked towards the window she was pointing to. She charged at him, and he blocked her blow when she swung at him. He deflected her blow to the side, forcing her to overextend her body. Naruto didn't even look at her as he lightly poked her in the sternum since she did tell him that she didn't mind being disrespected. He kept her from falling down and defeated her. I can't believe I fell for that. Naruto would admit that he was easily distracted. I can't believe you fell for that and I still lost, Murayama muttered to herself. Yes, dude, you just won all of their panties from them. No. Issei, stop being a pervert, and look at the time. I guess I'll have to challenge the other clubs tomorrow. By the time you all change and give me your panties, I'll have to get ready for my date. Naruto wasn't in too much of a hurry to completely conquer the school's student body. He had a date he needed to get ready for. Chapter 6 Love but Resent, Your House. Yeah, sorry Rias, we just need to make a quick stop by my house so I can drop off my trophies and get changed. Naruto apologized to Rias as the two of them walked together. She had changed into a rather nice frilled dark blue and purple shirt, with short jean shorts that hugged her butt nicely. She had changed into her casual clothes at school. Why she had her casual clothes there was a surprise and raised questions for him. The sports clubs were a lot easier to conquer than I thought they would be. Got me a lot of victory trophies. Naruto raised the bag up that he was holding on his back. Rias nodded her head and looked at the stuffed full bag, guessing that Naruto had claimed his trophies from quite a few clubs. She could only guess his reaction when he came to her club and challenged them to something. Most boys wait until the fifth date before introducing the girl to their family, you know. Rias tried her hand at teasing. Naruto shrugged. Feel free to wait outside then. I doubt anyone is home anyway. Naruto mentioned as his house came into view. Rias rubbed her head when she felt a pounding headache coming on. She looked towards a house that had a rather old motorcycle out in front of it. She felt a rather ominous feeling coming from the house in general, and she hoped against hope that it wasn't the house that she was stopping at. The chill down her spine, and goosebumps that came over her body, were enough to tell her that some rather powerful holy artifacts were at the house. Please don't turn left, crap. Naruto turned left and walked towards the front door. You okay? Naruto asked Rias with a raised eyebrow. Your family isn't super religious, are they? Rias asked with a look around. She saw a cross hanging over the front door, already knowing the answer to her question from that alone. Not to mention the powerful feeling that she got from the house only got more dangerous when she stepped closer and closer. She looked up at the cross, it reflected in her eyes as it gave off that dangerous glint. Nope. Oh, thank Granny isn't religious, but she's always saying how much she hates stuff like devils, Naruto mentioned with a wave of his hand. He opened the front door and walked right in. Naruto gestured for Rias to come inside, and she hesitated for a moment before she walked in and was hit by the smell of booze. Well, Granny is home. Naruto took his shoes off and stepped into the hallway to the living room. He could smell the booze, meaning that she had already returned, and gotten herself drunk. Rias followed after him into the living room, where she laid her eyes on somebody that made her raise an eyebrow. There was an attractive woman just laying across the couch in nothing but her shirt and her panties. She wasn't even wearing sexy panties, just comfortable panties that looked like they belonged to an older woman. The woman shared similar blonde hair to Naruto, so maybe his mother? Hey Granny, get your ass up, we have company. Naruto kicked Tsunade off of the couch as he passed by her. Fucking brat, respect your elders. Tsunade shouted as she was rudely awoken from her slumber. She grabbed her sake bottle and threw it at Naruto. She woke with a thunder, already annoyed by being kicked off the couch. Naruto caught the bottle and tossed it back to her, and when she caught it she took a large swig from it directly. Company? Tsunade asked as she looked toward Rias. Rias tried to make herself smaller. This was fucking Tsunade Senju, the supernatural world's greatest healer. Possessor of the Twilight Healing Sacred Gear, with legends saying that she had once healed an entire army by herself. The woman was in her 60s, but somehow she didn't look a day over her 20s, meaning the rumors that she had mastered her sacred gear to the point she had healed her aging body were true. Hello, I'm a friend of Naruto's from school. Rias gave a polite bow to Tsunade. She was on a list of humans you did not piss off. You seem familiar, oh well, whatever. I'm going back to sleep. Don't wake me with your fucking. Tsunade laid back down, not caring why the girl seemed familiar to her. She hugged the bottle she was holding to her chest and turned on her side away from them. Naruto palmed his face at her. I'll be back in a moment, Naruto mentioned as he went towards the stairs, and Rias followed after him. You know I'm changing my clothes, right? Naruto asked her, and she waved off his concerns. She didn't want to be in the same room as a drunk Tsunade for long if she could help it. I'm curious about your trophy collection. Rias made her best excuse. It was a good one, and she got her to look at his trophies when he got to his room. For a delinquent, she was surprised at how clean his room was. She saw a shelf that was filled with random objects and pictures. Naruto walked towards it and opened his bag up, beginning to place the objects in the bag onto the shelf. Rias raised an eyebrow when she saw Naruto putting a pile of panties on the shelf, her confusion being answered moments later. Issei had the idea of making the kendo club give up their underwear for losing. Honestly, I don't care about anything. A trophy is a trophy. Naruto took his shirt off and tossed it onto the floor. His room. Speaking of which, Issei lives right next door, right? You must be close friends with him. Rias knew where all of the people of interest lived. Issei was actually somebody who was suspected of having a powerful sacred gear. He was on her list of potential candidates for peerage filler. She just needed more time to observe him and see if she could use anything to make him willing to join her peerage. Of course, the way you poke fun at him. Met him today, the Red Opie Emperor isn't really the type of guy the first usually hang out with. Naruto shot down Rias' theory as he grabbed a new shirt, a very casual one, and threw it on. As much as Rias could appreciate his muscular body, she wasn't put into a hot and bothered state by it as other women had been during the day. If anything, she was able to appreciate the amount of work that went into his body. Red Opie Emperor? That was a strange nickname. Those are. Rias stopped when she looked towards his bed, and hanging above his bed she saw two very distinct words. The strongest demon sword, Gram. One of the four great holy swords, Ascalon. The holy aura coming off of Ascalon was no doubt the true source of how uncomfortable she had felt inside his home. Looking at the sword was enough to put her on edge, even more, when she saw Naruto walk towards the swords and take them off of the wall. She was a little surprised when she saw him holding both of the swords, since to have a holy and demon affinity was rather unheard of in general. Actually, it was impossible considering that God would never allow somebody with a demon affinity to hold and wield a holy sword of such power. This is my mom's sword Gram, and this is my dad's sword Ascalon. They're pretty strong swords, but honestly, I prefer to use my fists to fight. Want to hold them? Naruto offered to allow her to hold them. Rias stepped back subconsciously as she shook her head negatively. Naruto placed them back on the wall, on their wall hangers, before he put on a jacket over his shirt. Anyway, I'm finished, so let's head out, almost forgot my keys. Naruto grabbed his keys off of his dresser. Rias stared at the swords on the wall with a frown on her face for a moment, before she looked at the increasingly mysterious Naruto as he led her out of his room. Her eyes widened. On the back of his jacket was a red spiral, the symbol of the Uzumaki clan. The clan that had been wiped out. The clan that had produced the world's strongest fighters, and had spawned the legendary Kushina Uzumaki, the strongest Red Dragon Emperor in history. A woman is powerful enough that she had claimed the spot as the strongest existence. Quote. That's a pretty unique jacket, especially the symbol on the back, Rias mentioned as she followed him down the stairs. The more she learned, the more questions she had. This? It's my mom's old jacket, she was a tomboy back in the day apparently. This was actually a gift from my dad to my mom, he made it himself according to Granny. Naruto showed off his jacket with a grin. It was his favorite jacket, a black jacket with orange sleeves, and his family crest on the back. Rias nodded her head slowly. Wow, just wow, she didn't know that such a big player was transferring into the school. A human from the Uzumaki family was well known for producing powerful humans. The very reason why they were wiped out, was fear that they would produce another person on par with Kushina and wipe out the other supernatural races. Who are your parents? I notice there aren't any pictures of them on the wall, Rias asked out of actual curiosity. The only pictures she was seeing were of Naruto and Tsunade, with some pictures of an older man mixed in on occasion. She even saw a picture of Naruto standing with a blonde-haired girl with lavender eyes, wearing a shrine maiden outfit. She didn't see any pictures of Naruto's parents though, or anyone that looked like they could be his parents. Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze. What? Rias asked, now very sure she heard that incorrectly. Since Naruto just stated the name of the Red and White Dragon Emperors who claimed the titles of strongest. Humans who became so strong that they could fight on par with their inner dragons without using their sacred gears, and with their sacred gears had the power to become unchallenged. Two rival existences that would never fall in love with each other because of their very existence shouldn't allow it. The odds were so stacked against it, that it was considered next to impossible for a White Dragon Emperor and Red Dragon Emperor to fall in love, and it was even harder to believe that they fell in love considering they killed each other. She had to have heard Naruto wrong. My mom is Kushina Uzumaki, and my dad is Minato Namikaze. Are you okay? You look pale. Naruto noticed some of the color draining from Ria's skin. She was blinking rapidly as her brain tried to process just who Naruto's parents were. As much as she tried to think about it though, the more her brain rejected the possibility of it. No, he had no reason to lie to her about it. Are you sure those are their names? Rias asked with a shaky voice. Naruto looked amused. Yeah, pretty sure I know my folks' names. Do you need me to take you home? We can always reschedule. Naruto pointed out, and Rias stood straight up. Wow, sorry, I just wasn't expecting that. You have a pretty interesting family. Rias spoke as they left the house and started to make their way to Naruto's motorcycle. Naruto shrugged. Honestly, I love my mom and dad, but at the same time, I'm not going to say they were good parents to me. Naruto spoke with a deep frown. She could see the resentment there, but she knew it wasn't her place to ask. Rias frowned. She could tell that he wasn't telling her everything, and while that was fine since they barely knew each other, she hoped he would open up to her more. He seemed like a very fun, interesting guy. Even now, she saw him change his frown into a smile and slap his cheeks before he turned to her. Screw all of that, we still have a date to go on. Come on, let's go have some fun. Naruto told her, and she smiled. That was right, they were on a date. She could think about all of the complicated stuff later. End chapter.